I disappeared before anyone noticed I was gone. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. It happened in small, reasonable steps, the kind that sound sensible when someone else explains them. First, my credit card stopped working. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. Admiration like trophies, had known exactly what to do with that devotion. A compliment here, a look there. Just enough hope to keep her loyal. My best friend wasn't comforting me, she was reporting, but even that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was my son. He saw everything. The bags, the girlfriend, the way his grandmother treated me like I was disposable, the way his father spoke about me as if I were an obstacle instead of a person. And his father worked on him carefully. She's making this harder than it needs to be. I just want everyone to be happy. I'm trying to be fair. My son didn't get angry. He got quiet. He didn't know who to believe. And watching him look at me like I might be the problem, that was the wound that bled. I could lose money. I could lose a house. I could lose a marriage. But losing my child's trust? That almost broke me. That's when I hired a lawyer. Not because I wanted revenge, because I needed air. Her name was Nina Castellano. Early 50s, sharp eyes, no patience for nonsense. She reviewed my situation and didn't sugarcoat a thing. You helped build this life, she said. You're entitled to half. We fight. I stared at her. What if I don't want to? She looked at me like I'd just suggested apologizing to the man who set the fire. She thought I was defeated. Everyone did. I moved into a small apartment with my son. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen smaller than my old pantry. Half our boxes didn't even fit. They sat stacked in the corner like proof of how far we'd fallen. Meanwhile, my husband posted photos with his new girlfriend. New chapter, new energy, blessed. His mother commented, "So happy for you. You deserve joy." Everyone had advice. Everyone thought they knew what I should do. Everyone was wrong. Because here's the thing about being underestimated. People stop watching you. And that's exactly when you become dangerous. The truth didn't arrive dramatically. No screaming match, no lipstick on a collar, no late-night confession. It showed up on a Tuesday. Vincent said he'd be working late again. He said that a lot back then. I didn't question it. I was used to carrying the invisible parts of our life, the schedules, the bills, the unglamorous machinery that made his success look effortless. That night, I was reconciling accounts, routine work, the kind of thing you do on autopilot after years of marriage, and then I saw a transfer I didn't recognize. Not large, not alarming. Just unfamiliar. I clicked into it. Then I found another, and another. Individually, they meant nothing. Together, they formed a pattern. Money wasn't moving where it was supposed to move. It was leaving, quietly. I told myself it was probably nothing. An investment account I'd forgotten. A restructuring I hadn't been looped in on yet. But curiosity is a dangerous thing once it wakes up. I stayed up later than usual. Pulled statements, cross-checked accounts. Follow. Ed the trail the way I'd been trained to do years earlier, back when I had my own career and my own sense of competence. By midnight, my stomach was tight. By 1 a.m., my hands were shaking. By 3, I was sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by printouts, staring at numbers that didn't make sense. The house, our house. The one everyone complimented. The one we hosted holidays in. The one I thought was nearly paid off. It had 3 mortgages. The original loan, a second one I didn't know existed, and a third taken out quietly, 2 years earlier. Total debt, over $1 million, market value, significantly less. We didn't own our home, we were sinking inside it. I moved on to the business Vincent bragged about, the business people admired, the business he spoke about like it was proof of his brilliance. Lines of credit, maxed, back taxes, unpaid, vendors, overdue, equipment, finance to the edge. The company wasn't thriving, it was barely breathing. Even the cars, 3 of them, weren't assets. They were leases with massive balloon payments coming due. We owned nothing, we just rented the illusion of success at a premium monthly rate. I did the math twice. Then again, slower, hoping I was wrong. Total debt, close to $2 million. Actual value, far less. We were underwater, deep. And suddenly a different question surfaced. Where did the money go? I kept digging. Over the next few weeks, I became quiet, watchful, patient. I traced transactions the way you follow footprints in snow. Crypto investments, 6 figures, gone. Online gambling accounts I didn't know existed, empty. Rent payments on an apartment I'd never seen. For a woman I'd never met, there were watches, trips, clothes, restaurants I'd never been invited to, experiences funded by money borrowed against our future. Vincent wasn't building an empire. He was stacking borrowed confidence on top of borrowed money and hoping gravity wouldn't notice. From the outside, we looked wealthy. Up close, we were hollow. Like a movie set, beautiful from the street, empty behind the walls. My first instinct was to confront him, to slam the papers down on the table, demand answers, demand accountability. But I knew Vincent. I'd watched him rewrite reality too many times. If I confronted him, he wouldn't panic. He'd explain, he'd minimize, he'd confuse, he'd make me feel unreasonable for even asking. And if he realized I knew the full picture, he might move faster. He might lock things down. He might come for the one thing he didn't control yet, my money. I'd always kept some things separate, not out of distrust, out of habit. My grandmother used to say, a woman should never disappear completely into someone else's life. Years before, I'd rolled my retirement savings into a separate account when I left my firm. I never touched it, never commingled it. By then, it had grown into something meaningful. And then there was my inheritance, my grandmother's last gift, left to me alone, documented clearly, never shared, never blurred. I'd treated it the way she treated her independence, with quiet discipline. That money wasn't hidden, it was protected. And once I understood what Vincent had done to everything else, I understood what I needed to do next. I didn't confront him. I fortified myself. I worked with my uncle, a retired accountant, who had seen every financial disaster imaginable. We set up an irrevocable trust, not for me, for my son, my retirement, my inheritance. Every dollar that was legally mine. Locked away, untouchable, clean. Then I documented everything, every mortgage, every loan, every account. Vincent thought no one was watching. I made copies, multiple copies. I stored them in different places, physical and digital, off-site, secure. And then I waited, because men like Vincent don't change, they escalate. They take bigger risks. They believe their own mythology. They assume no one is paying attention. I knew he would leave eventually. Not because he was unhappy, because he was entitled, and when he did, I needed to be ready. So I smiled at dinners, nodded at parties, played my role, for 3 years. 3 years of knowing our life was built on sand. 3 years of watching him dig deeper. 3 years of patience so deliberate it felt like strategy. Because it was when he finally asked for the divorce, when he demanded the house, the business, the cars, everything. I almost laughed, because he wasn't asking for assets. He was asking for debt. He just didn't know it yet. People think patience is passive. It isn't. Patience is work. It's waking up every morning and choosing not to react. It's smiling when you want to scream. It's letting someone believe they're smarter than you while you quietly sharpen the knife they handed you. Once I secured the trust for my son and locked away what was mine, everything shifted. Not outwardly, nothing changed on the surface. But internally I stopped being afraid. Fear makes you sloppy. Preparation makes you calm. Vincent didn't notice the difference. He was too busy performing his life, too busy collecting admiration, too busy believing his own story. I watched him carefully. The longer I stayed quiet, the louder he became. He bragged more, spent faster, took bigger risks. Success, real success, makes people cautious. Fake success makes them reckless. He started using the business account like a personal wallet, expensive dinners, luxury items, trips framed as work travel. I documented everything, dates, amounts, account numbers. I didn't interfere. I let him hang himself with itemized receipts. At home I became smaller, not weak, strategic. I stopped arguing, stopped correcting him, stopped questioning decisions that made no sense. I let him believe I was tired, overwhelmed, worn down. Men like Vincent confuse silence with surrender. They don't understand that silence can be observation. During this time, I learned something important. When people think you've lost, they stop protecting themselves. They talk freely. They leave paper trails. They get careless. His mother stopped pretending to be polite. She spoke openly about how ungrateful I was, how Vincent deserved better, how lucky I was that he was being patient with me. His girlfriend, Brittany, slid easily into my old life. She rearranged furniture, changed paint colors, posted photos online that felt like they were meant for me to see. I didn't block her. I watched. Vincent loved that I didn't fight. He told people I was handling it well, that I'd accepted reality, that I knew my place, and then came the lawyers. When I finally sat across from Nina again, I didn't bring emotion. I brought binders, 3 of them, neatly organized, indexed, labeled, 3 years of evidence. She read in silence for nearly an hour. Her expression shifted gradually, from concern to confusion to something very close to respect. "You've known about this," she said finally, "for years." I nodded. I was waiting. For what? For him to leave. She leaned back, studying me in a way that felt different now, less protective, more analytical. "And when he demands everything, he gets it." Her eyes narrowed. "You're talking about letting him take the house, the business, the cars." "Yes. And all the debt attached to them." "Yes." The room went very still. "You understand," she said slowly, "that most people fight tooth and nail for assets." "I know. And you're prepared to walk away with very little. On paper." That's when Nina smiled, not kindly, not gently, the kind of smile surgeons have when they know exactly where to cut. "We'll need to be precise," she said. "The disclosures must be flawless, the language airtight." I've been precise for 3 years. From that moment on, she stopped treating me like a client who needed reassurance. She treated me like a collaborator. We structured the agreement carefully, simple on the surface, generous to him, almost insulting to me. I would relinquish all claims to marital property. In exchange, I would receive a modest cash settlement and shared custody of my son. But attached to that agreement would be something else, a full liability disclosure, every mortgage, every loan, every obligation. Clear, legal, unavoidable. Assets and liabilities travel together. That's how the law works. You don't get to keep the trophy without the weight attached to it. All Vincent had to do was sign. The beauty of the plan wasn't cruelty. It was consent, no tricks, no fraud, no deception, just letting a man take exactly what he insisted was his. The next step was performance, and I was very good at it. I showed up to mediation exhausted, eyes red, shoulders slumped. I spoke softly. I hesitated before answering questions. I asked for almost nothing. "I just want N." "Oh, to start over," I said. "I don't want to fight anymore." The mediator looked uncomfortable. Vincent looked relieved. He agreed immediately. Of course he did. He thought he was winning. With every session, his confidence grew. He stopped being careful. He started telling people I'd folded, that I hadn't even tried. His mother bragged, his girlfriends celebrated, and I kept playing my part, the woman who had lost, the woman who couldn't fight, the woman who didn't know what she was giving up. Meanwhile, the paperwork grew thicker, the debt grew larger. And my son watched. He didn't say much at first, just noticed things. Small inconsistencies, a new luxury purchase followed by complaints about money, a lavish dinner followed by excuses about why he couldn't afford something important. One night he sat across from me at our tiny kitchen table. "Mom," he said quietly, "is Dad actually rich?" I didn't answer immediately. I didn't need to. "What do you think?" I asked. He thought for a moment. "I think he's pretending." I squeezed his hand. "Just wait a little longer." The hardest part of the long game wasn't the silence. It was trusting that time would do what truth always does when it's allowed to exist long enough, expose everything. By the 4th mediation session, Vincent stopped pretending to be gracious. He didn't need to anymore. In his mind, the outcome was already decided. He wore better suits, smiled more easily, spoke about the future as if it were already settled and shining. I could feel the shift in the room when he entered. Confidence has a gravity to it, especially when people think it's earned. I made myself smaller. I kept my eyes down, let my voice waver, paused before answering simple questions. It was exhausting pretending to be broken, but it was effective. When you give people what they expect to see, they stop looking deeper. Vincent liked the way I showed up now. He told people I was being reasonable, that I finally understood how things worked, that I wasn't going to drag this out like some women do. Every time he said that, I felt something cold and steady settle deeper into place. Let him talk. At home, his home now, Brittany was busy rewriting my past. She replaced furniture I'd chosen carefully over years with pieces that looked expensive but felt hollow. She hung art that matched her clothes. She erased me in soft, neutral tones. The kitchen was the worst. I had spent weeks choosing that color, testing it in different light, waiting to be sure. She painted it gray. The kind of gray that looks clean in photos and lifeless in reality. I didn't say a word. Online, Vincent posted constantly. Grateful, new beginnings. Life is good when you're with the right person. People liked, commented, applauded. His mother was especially vocal. She told anyone who would listen that I walked away without a fight, that I didn't deserve more, that Vincent had always carried me. Let them believe it. The less resistance I showed, the more careless he became. He bought himself a watch so expensive I knew the exact invoice the moment I saw it on his wrist. Charged it to the business account. Wore it proudly to mediation. He wanted me to notice. I did, and I documented it. Behind the scenes, Nina was meticulous. Every draft of the agreement was reviewed line by line. Every liability cross-checked. Looked tired. Diminished. Exactly as planned. When the judge entered, the room rose. She was seasoned, sharp-eyed. The kind of woman who had seen every manipulation imaginable and survived decades of them without losing her patience or her clarity. She reviewed the file briefly. Then she looked at me. I felt her assess the imbalance immediately. "Mrs. Dunst," she said, "I need to confirm something before we proceed." Here it was. "You understand that by signing this agreement you are relinquishing your claim to significant marital property, the home, the business, assets accumulated during the marriage." I kept my voice soft, even, "Yes, Your Honor." "And you are doing this voluntarily?" "Yes." "No one is pressuring you?" "No." She studied me for a long moment. I could almost see her debating whether to intervene, whether to protect me from what appeared to be a terrible decision, but I was represented. I was clear. I was calm. "Very well," she said. "Proceed." The clerk distributed the documents, page after page. Vincent signed eagerly, barely glancing at the text. He wanted it finished. He wanted his life back, his freedom, his new beginning. I signed slowly, carefully. Every signature felt deliberate. Final. Across the room, Vincent glanced at his mother and smiled. She nodded approvingly. That's when his attorney reached the addendum, the liability disclosure. I watched his face change, not dramatically, subtly. A pause that lasted half a second too long. He flipped a page, then another, then back again, his expression drained of color. He leaned toward Vincent. "Sir," he whispered, "we need to talk." Vincent waved him off. "Not now. Almost done." The attorney tried again, lower voice, urgent. "You're assuming all liabilities tied to these assets." Vincent frowned. "What liabilities?" "The mortgages, the business debt, the leases, everything listed here." For the first time that morning, Vincent actually looked at what he had signed. I watched the realization spread across his face as the numbers registered. Not confusion, panic. He stood abruptly. "This isn't right," he said, voice rising. "She hid this. This is fraud." The judge's voice cut through the room like steel. "Sit down, Mr. Mercer. These numbers are wrong. Sit down." He did, but his hands were shaking. The judge reviewed the document calmly. "These are debts associated with assets in your name," she said. "Are you telling this court you were unaware of your own financial obligations?" Silence. His attorney cleared his throat. "Your Honor, I advised my client to obtain an independent financial review prior to finalizing this agreement. He declined. I have documentation." He produced the waiver, the one Vincent had signed without reading. The judge reviewed it briefly. "So you were advised," she said, looking at Vincent, "and you chose not to verify." Vincent stared at the paper like it had betrayed him. "Is this you?" "Our signature?" the judge asked. A long pause. "Yes." "Then you assumed this risk knowingly. The agreement stands." Vincent turned to me. "You knew," he said, voice cracking. "You knew about all of this." I met his eyes. "I handled the books for over a decade," I said calmly. "Of course I knew." The room was silent. "I want to withdraw," he said desperately. I didn't understand. "You were represented by counsel," the judge said. "You declined review. Your wife disclosed everything. There is no basis to reopen this." She paused. "The agreement is final." The gavel fell. That sound, sharp, final, ended 15 years of marriage and 3 years of waiting. I stood, smoothed my dress, picked up my bag, then I looked at Vincent one last time. "You asked for everything except our son," I said quietly. "I gave you exactly what you wanted." I walked out without looking back. The collapse didn't take long. Illusions never do. Within weeks, the girlfriend was gone. She left in the middle of the night with suitcases and silence, a short note behind that said only, "This isn't what I signed up for. Neither was he." The house went on the market, then came off. When you owe more than something is worth, buyers don't show up. Banks do. Phone calls, notices, deadlines. The business followed quickly. Vendors stopped extending credit. Accounts were frozen. Lawsuits arrived like clockwork. The man who once spoke about growth and expansion was suddenly learning the language of damage control. Bankruptcy attorneys replaced networking lunches. His mother called relatives asking for loans, explaining, blaming, rewriting. No one knew about the debt, she said. Someone must have hidden it. He was tricked, but paperwork doesn't lie. Signatures don't disappear. Consequences don't negotiate. A week after the hearing, my former best friend called. Her voice shook. I didn't know it was this bad, she said. I'm so sorry. I didn't answer. Some betrayals don't deserve resolution. Some silence is earned. She called again and again. Then she stopped. I imagine she's still waiting for him to notice her. He never will. His mother tried a different route, through my son. Tell your mother I didn't know, she said. Tell her I want to talk. My son looked at her for a long moment, then said, Mom's busy building her life. She doesn't have time for excuses. I didn't coach him. I didn't have to. Truth teaches faster than anger ever could. A month after everything ended, my son sat with me in our small apartment. The boxes were finally unpacked, the walls painted, the kitchen the same soft green I'd chosen years earlier. You waited, he said quietly. You knew for a long time. You did it for me. Yes, he hugged me, really hugged me. The kind of hug that says I see you now. 15-year-old boys don't give those easily. I spent my settlement on stability. First month's rent, security deposit, furniture that didn't wobble. Nothing flashy. Everything solid. The trust stayed untouched. Safe, quiet, patient. My son's future protected from chaos. And me? I went back to myself. I enrolled in courses I'd abandoned decades earlier. I took small jobs, built slowly, carefully. My first real client was a woman standing alone in an empty apartment, asking the same question I once had. How do you start over? One room at a time, I told her. We painted her kitchen green. She cried, happy tears. 3 months later, my ex showed up at my door. He looked smaller, older, the confidence gone, the watch gone. I didn't know it would be this bad, he said. I made mistakes. He wanted help. My help. I listened, quietly, calmly. Then I said, You asked for everything except our son. He nodded. You got exactly what you wanted. I closed the door. He stood there for a while. I know because I checked the peephole while eating ice cream. Best show I've ever seen. That night, after my son went to bed, I sat in the living room and looked at my grandmother's photo. Her recipe box sat beside it, the one thing they almost took. You were right, I said softly, about all of it. The apartment was small, but it was mine, every choice, every color, every quiet moment, and for the first time in longer than I could remember. I wasn't surviving. I was free.